as well. This technology is great. Um, Hello, welcome to the Work-Life Balance webinar. I'm Martin from Evolution Personal and Corporate Development, and I'm really pleased and excited to see you here today. This is the third in a series of webinars that I've been introducing to help people who are working remotely and working flexibly at the moment. The other two are available on our website, along with other resources that you can access, including a free time management course, a mindfulness check-in, and a relaxation and confidence building self-hypnosis session. There are people booked onto this webinar from all over the world, which to me illustrates the importance of work-life balance in this chaotic and scary world that we're living in right now. But let's remember that work-life balance is incredibly important at any time in our lives, and it's often something that we overlook. At this point, I hope that your family, or that you and your family are and continue to be well throughout this pandemic, and that you're well placed emotionally to take advantage of any opportunities that come along afterwards. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I'll be talking about work-life balance, about what it is and what it isn't, and how you can learn to have a better balance in your lives by changing some thought processes and some behaviors. So a couple of housekeeping points. Yep, you have stopped your video, but keep your video off and your microphones muted. That will just help the quality of the webinar and the quality of the connection. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat at the bottom of the screen, and I'll have a short Q&A session at the end of the webinar so that we can answer any questions that you have. I'm recording this webinar, as I mentioned in the emails, and I'll make it available on the website to everybody afterwards. So let's just check in with ourselves to start. So what I'd like you to think about just very briefly is how stressed are you at the moment, generally? So score yourselves out of 10, where 1 is completely unstressed and 10 is right on the edge at the moment. So where are you in terms of stress right at the moment? And we'll talk about why that's important to have that kind of awareness in just a second. So if you've just done that, I imagine you'll have scored yourself somewhere between 1 and 10. Why is that important? Well, it's important because, if I can get this to work, the performance in everything you do, working in particular, and especially at the moment, depends on how much stress you're going through at any one moment in time. So, for example, it's really difficult to perform well if you're not under any kind of pressure at all. I don't know if any of you have ever had a job where you've been completely unstressed, but I find it really, really difficult to motivate myself to do anything and to work effectively if I'm under no stress whatsoever. So stress is important. It's a good thing for you. But you can see that this graph goes up at a steady incline. And then what it does is it levels out, because it reaches a point where if you increase your stress levels, your performance doesn't increase. It carries on at that level. And then, of course, the bad news of that is that if you continue to increase people's stress, their performance not only doesn't increase or continue, but it drops off really, really quickly. So when we're talking about stress management, and most of the stuff that you read around work-life balance is focusing on stress, what we're really talking about is managing our stress in that optimum zone. So that area where we are performing at the best that we can perform, and as stress increases and decreases, our performance stays at that kind of level. So if we're talking about managing stress, we want to keep it there. So why did I ask you to score yourself out of 10? Well, the way I think about it is that you can put that level of 1 to 10 onto this diagram. So 1 is really low, and then obviously we're going up to 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7 are really in our optimum stress zone. So if you're scoring yourself between 5 and 7, then you're sort of working at the best that you can manage. So you're managing the stress okay, your performance is as good as it can be, because, you know, remember, people say if you ever want to give somebody a job, ask a busy person to do it, because the people who are performing and who are under pressure are performing at the best that they can. When you get to 8, you're sort of on that edge of being too stressed or being overstressed. And obviously 9 and 10, you've really got problems. So for me, that very simple 1 to 10, and of course it's subjective, but it's about what's relevant to you, because different people deal with different levels of stress differently. So where you are on that level means that, you know, you can do something about it. So if you're around 5 and 6, you're doing fine. If you get into 7, you're starting to think, well, maybe I need to kind of just be aware of my levels of stress. And if you get to 8, then you need to start doing something about it and doing something to reduce that level or manage it. And if you're at 9 and 10, you've really got problems. The difficulty that I have at working as a therapist and as a coach, is that most people don't realize they're overstressed until they're scoring a 9 or a 10. Whereas if we're aware of that 6, 7, and 8, then we can do something about it. I'm not going to talk about managing stress particularly in this webinar, although you know that managing your life balance can really help you with your stress generally. But the stress management stuff is available on other platforms. So. So if you're finding that your stress levels are kind of moving around, which they will do generally, being aware of it can help you maintain it. I always say that if you're not aware of something, you can't influence it. So let's talk about work-life balance. And the first thing I want to say about work-life balance is that there's no such thing as work-life balance. Maybe a little contentious, but what I believe we should be talking about is not work-life balance, but we should be talking about life balance. And this is the Wheel of Life, and there are lots of different versions of the Wheel of Life. This is the one that I use, and this will become available to download. If you want a copy of this, let me know afterwards, and we can email you a PDF version of this. Because as you can see around the Wheel of Life, we've got lots of different areas. We've got career, so we've got work. We've got finances. We've got health and fitness. We've got family and family relationships. And we've got relationships outside of the family. We've got personal development, and we've got recreation, and also the physical environment that you operate in. So this is a good way to sort of become aware of where you are and where you want to be, because if you want to improve the balance within your life, you need to know first of all, where you are and also what you want. So as you can see, each of these spokes is scored from 0 to 10. So the first thing to do is to look at all of these different elements. And we've started here with career. So 10 is like the best possible career you can have. And you are wherever you want to be, the best you can be in whatever job it is you're doing. So at the moment, we've scored ourselves sort of 7, 7.5. What about finances? Well, at the moment, you know, I think my finances are a 5. They're okay. We're managing, but they could be a lot better. What about health and fitness? Well, I'm okay with health and fitness. I exercise a lot. I'm pretty healthy. I have quite a good diet. So, you know, I'll score myself at 7 for that. What about family and the family relations? 5, you know, I'm really busy. I'm quite happy with family. Could be better, could be an awful lot worse as well. And relationships outside of family, they're a little bit lower because I haven't got a lot of friends. I don't have a lot of time for friends. It'd be nice to have more time, but at the moment, that's where it is. Personal development. I'm a little bit more than a 5 because I am taking pains to help with my personal development, partly within career, but also outside of career. So I'm scoring myself a 5.5 against perfection, of course, which is a 10. Recreation, well, I don't have a lot of time outside of work and everything else that I do. So I don't spend a lot of time relaxing and doing the things that I'd quite like to do. My physical environment, I'm quite happy with that. I'm happy with where we live. I'm happy with the house. I'm happy with my work environment. So this is scoring each one of these. And then if you join these with a line, join the dots with a line, you get a feel for your shape in terms of where your balance is in life generally at the moment. I suppose the perfect would be a circle. So all of them are the same. So the next thing to do is to kind of look at, right, well, what do I want? Now, I'm not suggesting here that everybody should be aiming for a 10 in every area, but think about what you want realistically. You may want a 10, you may want less than a 10. So I want career, I want a 9. So at the moment I'm a 7, I want a 9. I don't want, I'm not interested in perfection, but I want a 9. Finances, I'd like a 9 as well. I'd like the free cash to be able to do what I want, to plan for the future. Health and fitness, I'd like that to be a 9, because I don't believe I can be perfectly fit or perfectly healthy. Family, I want that to be a 10, because family is really, really important to me. I value family above everything else. Relationships, I'd like to be an 8. And personal development, I'd like to be a 10, because I'd like to be, I'm thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. I'd like to achieve that self-actualization, whatever that may be. Recreation, I'd like that to be a 9. Really important that I spend time away from work that I enjoy doing. Physical environment, I'm actually really happy with at the moment. So then we join the dots and where we are, and look at the gap between where we want to be and where we are at the moment. And this is about what's missing in our life balance. So this illustrates what it is we need to do. Try to do this. So this shows us what we need to do to be able to get our lives back into balance. So what's really important about this is to look at those gaps and think about, okay, so what do I want to do? I know where I want to be, but what does that look like? So we need to set some goals. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to take you through some goal setting processes. Well, that's really important. So the first thing we need to know is where we are, where we want to be, and then think about how we're going to get there. So there's some things that I think are really important to think about, though. And a set of beliefs that we might have, and some beliefs that are going to help us with our work-life balance, with understanding our life balance as a whole. And the first one of these is, you're doing the best you can with the resources that you have available, because it's quite easy to do that wheel of life and go, oh, look at recreation, it's terrible, I'm really bad at this, and beat myself up about it, which puts me in a really negative state. But if I think, well, I'm actually doing the best I can at the moment with the resources I've got available. I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of commitment. So, all right, I'm doing okay. I'd like to do better, but I'm doing the best I can with the resources I've got available. If I want to do better, I need to develop some more resources. Secondly, everything you do should be designed to help you achieve your life balance. So once you've got the gap between where you want to be and where you are at the moment, and you know what your life balance is going to look like, then that helps you to decide about things that you do, choices you make, what you're going to do in the evening, what you're going to do at the weekends. What about this job? It can help you with those decisions, because you ask yourself, is this helping me achieve balance? And if it's not, why am I doing it? And thirdly, there's only feedback. There's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. You might try something, it doesn't work. Again, don't beat yourself up about that. Just learn from it and think about what you're going to do differently next. Fourth, you have all the resources you need to succeed and achieve those goals. You might not think you have at the moment. One of my goals might be, from a career point of view, for instance, that I want to be a truck driver, but I can't drive a truck. But I've got the resources, I can learn how to do that. So I've got a more resourceful personality and more resourceful background. And if I believe I've got all the resources, then I'm going to look for them. Number 5, you're in charge of your mind and therefore your results, because it's up to you to make this work. You can make this work or not, but it's your choice. And that's the great thing about this, because if you're not in charge of your mind, who is? So everything that you've succeeded in terms of career and personal development and growth and family and all of that is down to you. Yes, there's outside influences, but it's down to you, because you're in charge of your mind. And also, the fact that my recreation is a lot lower than it should be, that's also down to me. I might blame other people. So this is about personal responsibility and taking control. And number 6, this is really important. You are the best in the world at being you. There's nobody better at being you in the world than you. So generally, shortcut's not working. So generally, the people who are really good at balancing their lives are the people who have those kind of beliefs. So if you believe them already, then you're going to find it quite easy to have a life balance. If you don't believe them already, think about them. Think about how they apply to you. Because if you can behave as if they're true, that's going to be really, really helpful. So I want to move on to talk about goals, because what you're saying is I want to score a 10 in recreation, but what does that actually mean? So I need to set myself some goals that are going to be helpful in achieving that. And you will have come across this before, I'm sure. SMART objectives. Now, please don't switch off or go and make a cup of tea at this point. And I know that whenever I introduce this on courses, there's always a collective groan, because every course you go on that's got anything to do with goal setting will trot this out. And if you haven't by any chance seen this before, then you'll know that S stands for specific and M stands for measurable. And it's really important for any goal to be specific, so you know what it is you're going to achieve. It's important to have a measure so that you'll know whether you've achieved it. The problem is that lots of things aren't measurable. So behavioral stuff is not easy to measure. It's difficult to measure being more assertive or a better communicator. And it's difficult to measure that my recreation is going to be a 10 or a 9 or whatever it is I want to achieve. So sometimes measurable also needs to be observable. So sometimes we need to be able to observe when something's working, even if we can't measure it. So being specific about what you're going to be able to see when you've achieved a recreation level of 10 can be important. A stands for achievable in most of these times. I also think that it's important that a goal you set is agreed, and that is agreed between all of the stakeholders. So the people in your family and friends and work and so on, if you're thinking about setting goals to balance your life more effectively, then you need to agree that this is what you're going to do between the people who are important to you. R stands for realistic. I have a problem with this, because I think realistic means the same as achievable. And I think that R as realistic was put in there originally to make SMART objectives rather than SMAT objectives. But that's just a personal view. If you still want an R in there, I would put relevant in. And from a life balance point of view, any goal that you're setting yourself needs to be relevant to you achieving that balance. So this is what, in terms of the beliefs around everything you do, should be about helping you achieve that balance. So it should be relevant, because if it isn't relevant, then don't do it. And time, a time constraint, a time bound, a timely approach to it. And that's really, really important, because if you don't have that time bound element to it, then you're constantly moving towards something, but you're never actually achieving it. So a time element to it is important. Now, as I said earlier, I've introduced this on courses forever, and lots of people have been on courses that have introduced this. And the problem is that lots of people don't do it. And they don't use this approach. They might use it when they first leave a course, because we all do that kind of thing. But the reason they don't apply it is that it's a very conscious, left brain, logical approach to goal setting. And the problem is that we're very emotional people. There's an awful lot goes on in our unconscious that determines whether we're going to achieve a goal or not, and how much we're motivated and buy into it, and what effect it has on the rest of our lives. And one of the great things about using that wheel of life is that that can help you to determine what's important to you relevant to something else. Because if you choose to do something that doesn't fit with your values in other areas of your life, you'll find a way to sabotage it. So what I want to do is take some elements of that, because that SMART goals do work in some ways, and I want to apply it to a different goal setting process, which takes into account the logical elements, the conscious and the unconscious as well. I'm going to go through this really quickly. On courses, we spend a lot of time on each element, because each element is really, really important. But as a process, I'll take you through the process, and then you can choose to use it in the future or not. Or what you can do is you can talk to me offline, and we can find, I can give you more information about it at a different time. So essentially, we're going to ask a series of questions. So the first question is, what specifically do you want in terms of, I want to increase my recreation score to 10. And the point about this is that it still fits in with SMART. It is about being specific, but make sure you state it in the positive rather than the negative. Because as we don't process negatives directly. Because if I ask you to, if I say, don't think of a cat, what do you do? And similarly, if you talk to kids and you say, don't touch that, what do they do? So if you say to yourself, I don't want to be working here in 3 years' time, there's a very good chance that you'll still be here. So state it in the positive. What do you want instead? Not what do you not want? Secondly, how will you know you've achieved it? What evidence is there to help you achieve that goal? So there might be other evidence in terms of information that you can measure. But think about how you'll know you've achieved it. So what will you measure? What will you see? What will you hear? How will you feel? And where are you now in relation to that goal? So you've scored a 10, you've scored a 3, let's say at the moment, but how will you know when it's a 10? What will you see when you've achieved it? What will you hear and how will you feel? And so where are you now in relation to that goal? And again, we're talking about specific and measurable here. And as I said, how will you know when you've achieved it? What will you see? What will you hear? How will you feel? Make it something that's really compelling, that's something that you really, really want to achieve, that's going to be fantastic. So what will 10 on a recreation or 10 on a family, or what will that 10 career look like for you? And importantly, because a goal isn't an outcome, it isn't an end in itself, but what will this goal get for you, or what will it allow you to do? What will it achieve for you? So if I score a 10 in finance, what will that get for me? It's not about having the money and piling it up and counting it. It's about what will that allow me to do? What will it enable me to do? And ask yourself several questions, several times. What else will it get for me? What else? What else? So that you make sure you cover everything. Because this is the motivational part of it. Is it down to you? Remember what I said, you're in charge of your mind and therefore your results. If it's somebody else that wants you to do it, you're less likely to make it happen. So is it self-initiated? And are you in control of achieving this? Because if you're not, it's going to be really hard to achieve it. So you might set yourself a goal to win the lottery. You might start that process. You might initiate that process by buying a ticket, but you're not in control of the rest of the process. So it's really hard to set a goal that involves that. What about the context? So who do you want it with? Where do you want it? And when do you want it? So there's the time constraint in there. So what geographical location do you want it? And who do you want to be involved in that process? What resources do you need to achieve it? So, resources are around time, money, opportunities, skills, and so on. Have you done it before? Because if you've done it before, you can do it again. I used to play cricket. I loved playing cricket. I don't play it anymore. If I've done it before, I can go out and do it again and pick it up. Or if it's something completely new, do I know someone who's done it before? Or can I act as if I have it? Can I act as if I'm a runner? Well, yeah, I can go out running. What else do I need in terms of skills, time, and money? And because there's no gain without loss and there's no loss without gain, you need to then think about what effect is this going to have on the rest of my wheel of life? So if I spend more time doing recreation, how's that going to affect career? If I spend more effort in getting money, is that going to have a knock-on effect? Because remember, this is about balance. So you need to ask yourself, what will I gain when I achieve this? What will I lose? And think about how you balance, put those things together. So that's a quick run through of goal setting. And you might not use this whole process on a day-to-day goal setting. You might use, more along a SMART objective approach to this. But certainly for big things and big things around life balance, I think this process is really, really important, because what it does do is it means that you're taking stuff from your unconscious, which is things you really want, rather than things that you think you want. I want that promotion. Actually, I don't want that promotion because I'd rather spend more time with the family or more time at home and more time doing recreation and so on. So thinking about how you do that on a general basis is really, really important. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to take you through some top tips on how to improve your life balance. First of all, decide what you want and not what you don't want. Working as a coach or as a therapist, I'm constantly having people coming to me saying, for reasons, for things they don't want. You know, I don't want this job. I don't want to smoke. I don't want whatever it may be. And my job initially is to turn that around to say, what do you want instead? So the Wheel of Life can really help you with that, looking at that gap between where you are and where you want to be. Secondly, set goals. Goals are really, really important. Because if you don't have a goal, then any direction you're going will be great. And if you don't set a goal, it's like stepping outside of your house with your suitcases to go on holiday with no idea where you're going to go. So set goals and discuss those goals with the stakeholders. So as I said before, whether that's family or friends or work colleagues or your boss or whoever it may be, but discuss the goals that you have as part of that goal setting process. And number 4, take decisive actions, do things. I always say that a ship can't change direction if it isn't moving. So you might want to increase your recreation. So you try things and you think, actually, that's not really what I want to do. So decide to do something else. But if you sit there and say, I don't know what I want to do, I'm not going to do anything, then you're not improving your process. You're not getting that balance that you really want. And number 5, measure your progress. Revisit your life balance with your Wheel of Life and constantly kind of, well, where am I at the moment? Do I need to do focus more on this area or this area? Because things happen in life that affect you in different ways. And what's happened with the coronavirus has had a massive impact in most of people's lives at the moment. And, and there are lots of opportunities within that. And we'll talk about that in a second. Because what we're talking about here is the big picture. This is I've done my Wheel of Life. I've scored where I am. I've scored where I want to be. And now this is what I need to do to kind of work towards getting the scores that I really want. But what about on a daily basis? One of the things that I think is really powerful about where we are right now, and with so many people working from home, is that there's an opportunity on a day-to-day basis to improve your life balance. And I'm talking to all sorts of people about how this is working for them. And changing the way you think about how you work from home is really important. So the first thing is to prioritize and plan. And prioritize and plan everything. So that's not just about prioritizing and planning your work, it's about everything else. So when you're at home and you're working at home, yes, prioritize what tasks you've got to do through the day, but also what you're going to do home-wise. Because, remember that people who work in offices are productive for around 3 hours a day. So that when you're working from home, one of the things that leads to increased stress for people at the moment is they're suddenly thinking that they have to be productive for 8 hours a day. And that's not real, because when we're working in an office, we do productive time, we have conversations with people, we go and have a coffee, we have lunch breaks, we have meetings, we think, we have discussions, we go for a bit of fresh air, whatever it may be. So those are opportunities, the downtime are opportunities for us to use those times more effectively to go and do things like, go and put a load of washing on, or prepare the dinner, or go for a run and then do some more work, and split your time and spread your time that way. For me, where we're at now in terms of working flexibly and the opportunity to do this moving forwards is a real opportunity to improve everybody's life balance. So prioritize and plan everything. At the start of the day, decide what you're going to do. Use your breaks effectively. Use those breaks to do other things, to do the house kind of maintenance-y things that you need to do, to put the washing on, to whatever it may be. Because what that means is at the end of the day, when you finish at 5 o'clock, not only do you not have an hour's commute to go home, but you don't have all of those tasks to do when you get home as well, which means that you can be much more into quality time at the end of the day straight away as soon as you finish working. check your progress during the day against a plan that you've made at the start of the day. And there's some really good tips on the online time management course, which is free at the moment. You can find that on the website, on the resources page of the website. So there are really good ways to help you prioritize and plan and check your progress against those things on a day-to-day basis. Manage your stress. Easy to say, not so easy to do, but things like using your breaks effectively during the day, learning how to say no, being very, very aware of what you can achieve in a day, prioritizing things, making things work much more effectively, can manage your stress generally. Use other techniques like the mindfulness things, like the relaxation techniques, like the taking a break and getting some fresh air. Number 10, take care of yourself. You are the most important person in your life. Most of us don't put ourselves at the top of the pyramid. We put ourselves somewhere near the bottom. But actually, remember the days when we used to go on aeroplanes? When the safety announcement said, you know, if the oxygen masks fall down, put yours on before you put anybody else's on. You need to be the best person that you can be to help all of those people around you. And taking care of yourself is really important in terms of helping you to balance your life and all of the things that are required from you on a day-to-day basis. So they're the 10 top tips. And we've got a number 11, which is get some support. I can't emphasize this enough. Having a coach is really, really helpful. Having somebody you can talk to, whether it's a stress counselor or it's using the EAP program you might have at work, but get some support. People who can help you with these things. Find some online support. Find some webinars like this one that can help you in lots of those different areas. But you know, you're not in this on your own. You're not in this alone. There are people who can help you and utilize those facilities. So that's kind of a really quick run through. I hope you've got some useful stuff out of that. Both, I think that the Wheel of Life is an incredibly useful tool. And as I say, I can make that available to you. I can email you a PDF of that across. You can print those out. You can use them whenever you want to. I'm absolutely happy for you to do that. And then remembering that once you've got that gap, you need to fill the gap, which means you need to plan, you need to have a goal, but then you also need to plan how you're going to get there. So you've got the big picture around your life balance generally, but also during the day. So how can you balance your life during the day? And you can use the Wheel of Life to help you balance that during the day as well, help you to prioritize what you do. But finding ways to do that will be really helpful. We've also got a survey that we're putting out at the moment, which is really designed to help us understand how people are working from home at the moment and how we can use it to create even more useful resources that can help people who are working from home. Because I really think that we've got an opportunity now to work much more flexibly in the future. I'm talking to clients who are saying, we don't want to go back to the way we were, who are saying things like, the lease is up on our building this year, we're not going to renew it, or we actually need a smaller office space than we had. So any resources that we can develop that can help you work more effectively from home or more effectively flexibly, that would be absolutely fantastic. The website is www.evolution-development.com. And if you want to go to /resources, you'll find all those resources. But we will be sending out links to all of those resources by email at the end of the webinar, or after the webinar, not at the end of it. So there we are. Hope you got something out of it. If you've got any questions, please ask them. I've just given the website link to somebody. So do you have any questions? That's a resounding quietness. Okay. Thank you very much for taking part. If you do have any questions after the webinar, then please contact me. You will be getting an email from us with all of these links in, so feel free to respond to that email, and I look forward to talking to you in the future. And good luck, and hope you all manage to stay safe. Thank you.